The humble housekeeper changes a millionaire's life in 5 minutes, what no nanny could ever do. The rain hammered down in sharp, relentless bursts against the windows of Holloway Manor. Outside, the sprawling grounds blurred into dark puddles, shadows stretching under iron-gray skies. Inside, everything was still, cold, silent. The vast rooms echoed with whispers of a life untouched by comfort or warmth. James Holloway, the reclusive millionaire whose name sparked rumors in hushed tones across London, stood alone in the grand foyer, his hands shoved deep into polished pockets. His face was a mask, stone-cold, unreadable. No one had ever cracked that armor until Eleanor arrived. Eleanor, the housekeeper from nowhere. She walked in as quietly as the rain, carrying no luggage, only a steady gaze that felt oddly alive in the sterile air. Her coat was plain, her shoes soaked, and yet something about her presence shifted the room. She didn't flinch at the mansion's icy marble floors, or the vast empty hall lined with portraits of grim ancestors. Instead, she seemed to breathe through the silence, as if she felt the loneliness lurking just beneath James's tight jaw, the tremor he fought to hide. 5 minutes. That's all it took. 5 minutes for Eleanor to do what no nanny, no friend, no stranger ever managed. James barely said a word when she moved close and, without a hint of hesitation, took his hand. A simple touch. Instantly, his sharp eyes flickered with something unspoken. Pain, regret, a memory. His chest tightened painfully, as if years of frozen emotions cracked just enough to bleed beneath his skin. Eleanor didn't pull away. She held on, her grip steady and warm against limbs cold from isolation. The walls of the mansion seemed to breathe differently now, less suffocating. A shadow stirred in James's gaze, a thread of vulnerability he had long locked away. But in that moment, beneath their quiet connection, a darker force lingered. Somewhere close, unseen, unheard, a pair of eyes watched every move James made, every fragile crack opening in his defense, a threat weaving through the mansion's silence, waiting. Eleanor moved through the house with quiet purpose, her steps soft yet certain. The mansion's hollow echoes seemed to recoil for her gentle touch. Her fingers brushed forgotten shelves, and then, among the dusty leather-bound books, she found it, a folded letter, yellowed and creased, tucked away in the back of the library's darkest corner. The handwriting was elegant but hurried. The words inside whispered betrayal, secrets James thought buried, truths that could shatter his carefully built fortress of solitude and power. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew this was no ordinary note. It was a key, a warning, the start of something that would unravel the mystery tangled around James's past, and pull both their lives into a storm more dangerous than either could guess. Outside, the rain tapped harder now, like a countdown ticking down to chaos. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eleanor's breath caught as she unfolded the letter, the words swimming into focus, aching with secrets that breathed life into the tense silence of Holloway Manor. A warning? A key? The weight of her discovery pulsed in her palm, heart thudding in time to the reins. Tattoo against the windows. She glanced up and James stood mere steps away. His eyes locked onto her with an intensity that pulled her in. A magnetic force she couldn't resist. Then, without warning, the mansion shook. A thunderous boom. The lights flickered. Eleanor froze. What was that? James jolted. the mask of stoicism cracking just enough for a flicker of fear to flash across his face. The air crackled. Something was coming. "Stay here," he commanded, but his voice trembled. There was a protectiveness there, a desperate urgency that surprised her. He didn't wait for her reply, breaking into a quick stride down the corridor, leaving her with the weight of the letter and an impending dread curling in her stomach. Eleanor glanced between the letter and the hallway. Should she follow? The mansion felt alive, shadows creeping along the walls, whispering secrets of their own. What had James hidden from her? She took a breath and clutched the letter to her chest, stepping after him. The sound of pounding rain mingled with the echo of her footfalls, creating a chaotic rhythm that mirrored her racing heart. She found him in the kitchen, staring out the shattered window, the one that had always been boarded up, the one no one dared to touch. Now glass lay scattered on the floor, glistening in the dim light like trapped stars. But it wasn't the broken window that chilled her. It was the figure outside, illuminated by flashes of lightning, the outline of a man, soaked to the bone, eyes blazing with anger. As the lightning struck again, Eleanor caught a glimpse of a young face, twisted in rage, and time seemed to hold its breath. "Who is that?" she whispered, a horrifying knot forming in her throat. "Stay back," James shouted, his voice coarse, breaking like glass. The figure stepped closer, and Eleanor could see the distinct set of his jaw, a rage brewing like a storm. The man lifted a hand, revealing a crumpled piece of paper. "You don't know what you're dealing with, James." Eleanor moved forward despite James's warning. There was something familiar about that voice, something that twisted a memory she couldn't quite grasp. As she peered past James, the rain-washed face of the stranger made her gasp. Beneath the wild storm, beneath. The fury, recognition sparked. "Daniel?" she breathed, her heart stalling. Her hands trembled in disbelief. It was her brother, long thought lost, wanted for things that brought shame to her family. "Eleanor?" His voice wavered, genuine shock mingling with pain. "You're with him? You don't understand. He's dangerous. He hides everything." James turned, confusion churning on his face as he stared between his housekeeper and the intruder. A whirlwind of emotions engulfed Eleanor. Relief, fear, anger. What was happening? Daniel was supposed to be gone forever. How did he find her here? "Get away from him," James shouted. But there was no escaping the chaos spiraling around them. Just then, the lights flickered once more, shadows deepening. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was the start of something terrible. The secrets started to unravel, and a chill ran down Eleanor's spine. "James," she began, but she wasn't sure where to go from there. The weight of the letter in her pocket was now just a whisper against the roar of the storm enveloping them. In that moment, everything shifted. "Daniel, what do you know?" she demanded, her heart racing. As thunder rumbled again, drowning her voice, a sinister realization curled like smoke in the air. The letter wasn't the only secret buried deep in Holloway Manor, and the storm had just begun. "James," Eleanor started, but the storm roared back to life, drowning her voice. The tension twisted and pulsed in the air, heavy and electric. She felt Daniel's gaze cut through her, fierce yet pleading. "Get away from him," James shouted, desperation cracking his tone. He positioned himself between Eleanor and Daniel, a wall of muscle and fury. "You don't understand what he's done." "What he's done?" Daniel echoed, disbelief lacing his words. "You're the one playing God in this house, replacing family with money, using her like a pawn." His arm shot out, waving the crumpled paper accusingly. "You think this gives you power? You're wrong, James." The walls seemed to close in, shadows pulsing around them. Eleanor's heart raced. How deep did this rivalry run? Just then the air changed. An icy gust swept through the room, cold enough to freeze the blood in her veins. "Stop!" Eleanor cried, the word tearing from her throat, but the ground beneath them shuddered. The mansion trembled again, rattling glass and shaking the very bones of the structure. and then a deafening crack, like thunder, but worse. The ancient chandelier above them swayed dangerously, and James's eyes widened in fear. "Eleanor, get back!" He moved to shield her, but it was too late. With a horrific noise, the chandelier came crashing down, 1,000 shards of crystal erupting into the air, glinting like deadly stars. Time slowed. In that instant, Eleanor saw it all. The pain on James's face, the plea in Daniel's eyes, the arrival of chaos, and her mind raced to save them. But fate was faster. The chandelier shattered as it hit the ground, glass raining down like sharp raindrops. James lunged forward, pulling Eleanor back, but Daniel didn't have time to evade. A piece of glass sliced through the air, striking him in the shoulder. "No!" Eleanor screamed. Daniel staggered back, gripping his shoulder with shock. His eyes held a burst of confusion, then anger as he dropped the crumpled note. It spiraled to the floor like a leaf caught in a whirlwind, drifting away from him. The room spun. Eleanor's heart hammered as Daniel sank to one knee, blood staining his shirt. James stood rigid, a mix of panic and remorse crossing his features, his protective instincts clashing with the horror of what had just unfolded. "Eleanor, I didn't mean." James's voice faltered as he crouched beside her brother. Daniel looked at them, eyes glazing with pain and fury, words stuck in his throat. "You think this is over?" His voice was a rough whisper. "What I know will change everything." Just then, the glimmer of the letter caught Eleanor's eye. It lay crumpled on the floor, forgotten amid the chaos. She scrambled to grab it, breath hitching in her throat as she unfolded it again. A mere snapshot of ink smeared by fear, but it whispered a truth that sent chills up her spine. "Eleanor, don't!" James warned, panic spiraling inside him. But she couldn't stop. She read the hastily scribbled words that revealed a name she recognized. Her breath hitched as realization struck. It tied back to Jane, her childhood friend, gone for years. She had been connected to this world, a secret she had buried deep. But before she could voice it, the kitchen door swung open, a dark figure framed against the storm. It was another man, eyes wide with fury. A stranger, but standing like he owned the night. He took in the scene, the shattered chandelier, the blood, the frantic energy, and his grim smirk spoke volumes. "Looks like I'm just in time for the fun," he said. His voice dripped with familiarity, sending a shudder through Eleanor. How did he know them? What massive game were they caught in? In that moment, everything shifted again. Relationships teetered on the brink. Secrets hung thick in the air, waiting for the right spark to ignite them. What was the truth behind this clash? What could change everything? Fear quaked in Eleanor's chest as the storm grew louder, drowning her thoughts in chaos. The night was far from over. A heavy silence wrapped around them, thick as the storm outside. James blinked at the newcomer, confusion mounting. Who was this man, stepping into their chaos like he owned the night? Every breath felt charged, a storm of emotions swirling within. Eleanor glanced at Daniel, whose shock had morphed into a fierce fight. "Who the hell are you?" James demanded, fists clenched. The stranger's smirk spread wider. "I'm your worst nightmare, James. The keeper of your secrets." With each word, his voice dripped with malice. Eleanor's heart raced. Secrets? What secrets? She could almost feel the threads of her life unraveling, flapping wildly in the storm. Ignoring James's questioning glare, the man stared at Daniel. "You think you can just walk in here and reclaim what's yours? You're nothing but a coward, hiding behind your sister's skirts." "Shut up!" Daniel roared, staggering to his feet. He pressed a hand on his bleeding shoulder, face twisted in pain and rage. But then, the stranger laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that sent chills through Eleanor. "You don't get it, do you? She's the key, and you're just a pawn. It's time to end this pathetic act." Panic rocketed through Eleanor. Key? Pawn? What did he mean? She gripped the letter in her pocket tighter. It felt like a live wire, pulsing with danger and truth. "Get away from him," James shouted again, stepping forward like a shield. But the man barely blinked. "You think you can protect her? You're too late. The truth is already in motion." A tremor ran through the air, the kind that whispered of oncoming chaos, and then the lights flickered and died. The room plunged into darkness, gasps echoing through the shadows. The storm outside roared louder, drowning in the disarray of fear and uncertainty. Just then, a sudden crash erupted from the back hall, like a wave breaking against the shore. The old walls seemed to shudder. Eleanor's heart dropped. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice small. "Stay close," James barked, pulling Eleanor beside him. She could see the glint of determination in his eyes, but it was laced with terror. The man laughed again, loud and brash. "You still think you can protect her? You have no idea of the storm you're in." Before they could react, the back door burst open, and a flash of red filled the room. Red? No, a fire? A figure stumbled in, half-shadowed but unmistakable. Jane. But it wasn't just her. It was chaos behind her. A wide-eyed crowd of familiar faces from Eleanor's past, draped in shadows and fear. "Eleanor," Jane cried, her voice cutting through the thick tension. "We need to go. It's coming for you." Eleanor's breath caught. What was happening? What did Jane mean? Suddenly, the man lunged forward, reaching for Eleanor, his intentions dark. But the crowd surged, like a wave pulling back for the strike. "Eleanor, run!" Jane shouted, and in that moment, everything shifted. James shoved Eleanor away, facing the crowd, but his eyes locked onto hers. Panic surged. What did he mean? And then it hit her. The letter, the name inside, the connection to Jane. Panic rose in her chest like an untamed fire. "Daniel, what did you know?" she breathed, and all eyes turned to him. A flickering memory, the truth she never wanted. "Eleanor, it's not just about you. It's about all of us." The room fell silent. The world teetered on the edge, ready to plunge into chaos. Eleanor felt the weight of secrets pressing against her chest, a heavy reminder that hidden truths could shatter everything. "Eleanor," Daniel's voice broke, "you have to decide. We've all played our parts, but someone has to sacrifice." The shadows shifted around them, uncertainty draping the room. Eleanor's heart raced, caught between two worlds, her past and an uncertain future. "Decide," she whispered, breathless. "But how? What?" But the answer hung in the air, wild and heavy. A storm was coming, and they were all caught in its eye. Eleanor felt the weight of the moment, a storm brewing above them, swirling with unanswered questions. The tension in the room stretched like an elastic band, ready to snap. "Eleanor, it's not just about you." Daniel's voice cracked, each word weighed down with desperation. Panic surged in her chest. What did he mean? What secret intertwined their lives? She caught Jane's worried gaze among the bewildered faces, their eyes reflecting the chaos of the moment. "Daniel, what do you know?" she demanded, heart racing. "Everything, Eleanor," he said, each syllable a hammer blow. "It's all connected. I came here to warn you. You need to decide," he urged, his voice rising amid the storm. "We're running out of time." As thunder roared, the stranger stepped closer, shadows wrapping around him. His smirk widened, knowing how this would end. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for, the storm crashing down in the form of fate. Then it hit. A deafening crash rolled through the air as the back wall exploded inward. A figure emerged through the debris, wild and electric, flames flickering in their wake. "Stop!" she screamed, but the words dissolved beneath chaos. The figure charged forward, eyes aflame. "It's time to settle old scores." It was a woman, hair wild, clothing torn. "Who are you?" James shouted, the protective barrier broken. "Someone you thought you could bury," she spat, pointing at Daniel. "He's your brother, James." Eleanor's heart stopped. "Brother? What?" She staggered back, shock coursing through her. Daniel had a brother? Silence crashed like thunder, echoed by the ghosts of their pasts. James's face twisted in disbelief, anger hardening his features. "That can't be true. Can't you see?" the woman exclaimed, stepping into the dim light. "You thought you could forget him. You thought you could erase your past." Eleanor clenched the paper in her pocket. What the hell was happening? "Daniel, is this true?" Daniel's eyes darted to the woman, raw vulnerability cracking through his facade. "Sophie, you should have stayed away." James was frozen in his anger, eyes darting between them. "You're lying. You're both lying." But the truth hung heavy, in the air like a pendulum, swinging toward revelation. "Lying?" Sophie shot back, taking a step closer, flames licking at her heels. "Look at the chaos you've created. You think money can erase family? You're nothing without blood." Eleanor felt the world tilt beneath her. Family? Betrayal? She was a bystander, a witness to a war she never knew existed. She glimpsed a pang of confusion in James's eyes, mingling with a deep-seated rage. "You knew?" he asked Daniel, voice trembling. "And you didn't tell me?" Before Daniel could respond, Sophie lunged forward, and time froze. Movement blurred, hearts raced, the room thick with tension. James pulled Eleanor close, instinctively shielding her. "James, look out!" Eleanor cried, but not in time. Sophie shoved Daniel aside, charging toward James. He reacted, arms instinctively rising, but she was ready. They collided, a shockwave echoing through the room, causing pictures to rattle on the walls. Screams cut through the air as Eleanor pulled away, panic gripping her heart. Everything shifted, shadows swirled, the storm outside now a mere whisper against the turmoil within. And then, in the chaos, the kitchen door flew open again. A figure rushed in, cloaked in smoke and confusion. It was another face from her past, one she never expected to see again. "Eleanor, you have to run," the voice panted, familiar yet terrifying. The world spun as realization struck. It was her mother, the woman she had lost, vanishing into dark memories and unspeakable pain. But how? Eleanor's breath caught, heart racing, body frozen. "Run. It's all connected, sweetheart. You're in danger." Everything she thought she knew shattered like glass, falling away. The inner battle between truth and deception roared, leaving her pinned within the storm enveloping them. Eleanor's mind raced. "What do you mean?" The crowd gasped, tension rippling through them. The storm was raging, pitting family against family. The fragile bonds they'd thought unbreakable now hung in the balance. "Eleanor, you need to make a choice," her mother shouted, urgency surging through her voice. The question lingered in the air, heavy and raw, pulsing in tune with Eleanor's racing heart. Choose? What could she possibly choose? Or was the choice already made for her, buried deep beneath layers of secrets and lies? As the words echoed in the shadows, a spark ignited, pushing Eleanor toward a truth that promised danger and power. Would she step forward or retreat from the chaos? Could she embrace the storm? Eleanor felt the weight of the moment, a storm brewing above them, swirling with unanswered questions. The tension in the room stretched like an elastic band, ready to snap. "Eleanor, it's not just about you." Daniel's voice cracked, each word weighed down with desperation. Panic surged in her chest. What did he mean? What secret intertwined their lives? She caught Jane's worried gaze among the bewildered faces, their eyes reflecting the chaos of the moment. "Daniel, what do you know?" she demanded, heart racing. "Everything, Eleanor," he said, each syllable the hammer blow. "It's all connected. I came here to warn you." "You need to decide," he urged, his voice rising amid the storm. "We're running out of time." As thunder roared, the stranger stepped closer, shadows wrapping around him. His smirk widened, knowing how this would end. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for, the storm crashing down in the form of fate. Then it hit. A deafening crash rolled through the air as the back wall exploded inward. A figure emerged through the debris, wild and electric, flames flickering in their wake. "Stop!" Eleanor screamed, but the words were lost in the chaos. Who are you? James shouted, his protectiveness cracking against the unknown. Someone you thought you could bury, the woman spat, pointing at Daniel. He's your brother, James. Eleanor's heart stopped. Brother? What? She staggered back, shock coursing through her veins. Daniel had a brother? Silence crashed like thunder, echoing through the room. James' face twisted in disbelief, anger hardening his features. That can't be true. Can't you see? The woman exclaimed, stepping into the dim light. You thought you could forget him. You thought you could erase your past. Eleanor clenched the paper in her pocket. What the hell was happening? Daniel, is this true? Daniel's eyes darted to the woman, raw vulnerability cracking through his facade. Sophie, you should have stayed away. James was frozen in his fury, eyes darting between them. You knew, and you didn't tell me? Before Daniel could respond, Sophie lunged forward, and time froze. Movement blurred as they collided, a shockwave echoing through the room, rattling pictures on the walls. Screams sliced through the air as Eleanor pulled away, panic gripping her heart. Everything shifted. Shadows swirled, the storm outside now a faint whisper against the turmoil within. Then, out of nowhere, the loud shattering of glass erupted. Eleanor jerked backward as a huge window cracked apart, sprawling shards raining through the room like deadly stars. Daniel! James yelled, his voice slicing through the panic. Watch out! Eleanor shouted, lunging forward, but too late. Daniel pushed Sophie aside, but a jagged shard caught his arm. He cried out, blood blooming against his shirt, shock flashing across his face. Why are you? He looked between James and Sophie, confusion darkening his features. The chaos enveloped them. Eleanor's heart raced as she struggled to grasp what was happening. She reached for Daniel, but he staggered back, collapsing to a knee. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared at the far end of the room. Eleanor squinted. A figure emerged, holding a flickering torch, illuminating faces twisted in shock. Eleanor, the newcomer called, voice clear and commanding. Her heart dropped. Not again. Mom? It was her mother, wild-eyed and breathless. Stay back. It's not safe. Eleanor's mind raced. But how? No time, her mother shouted, flicking the light around. They're coming for all of us. A gasp escaped the crowd. Questions spiraled through the air like leaves caught in a gust of wind. But before anyone could speak, Sophie's eyes widened in horror as she darted to the door. There's no escape, she screamed, panic lacing her voice. Just then, something shifted. The tension in the air thickened, and the ground beneath them rumbled. Something dark and heavy loomed outside, as if the storm had come alive. Eleanor felt a pulse, a surge of energy that warped the air. A memory flickered, her mother's warnings long ago about a darkness shadowing their family. Could this be it? Eleanor, Daniel groaned, pressing a hand to his shoulder. You need to understand, it's worse than we thought. She turned, eyes wide, but he was interrupted by the wall shaking with violent force. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and blazed. And then, a twisted silhouette materialized in the doorway. A face she recognized from her childhood nightmares. Did you really think you could run? The figure hissed, body tight and menacing. The truth hit Eleanor like a brick. You were supposed to be gone. Her voice cracked. The walls echoed with disbelief. Secrets intertwining like vines, truths twisting into darkness as the storm raged louder outside. She couldn't breathe. The game was changing, and they were all pieces caught in a much larger web. The room pulsed with tension, and Eleanor felt the air grow heavy, thick with dread. Her heart raced as the figure stood in the doorway, her worst fears materializing before her. The woman's eyes glinted. Ack! James shouted, positioning himself like a barricade. But all Eleanor could focus on was the trembling weight of her mother's warning hanging in the air, suffocating, inevitable. Mom, she gasped, still struggling to comprehend. What are you doing here? Eleanor, listen. Her mother's voice rang sharp with urgency. You have to understand, there's no time to explain. He can't. But before she could finish, A shattering crash boomed from the kitchen, reverberating through the walls like an echo of doom. The crowd flinched, faces paling, eyes wide with shock. "What now?" someone whispered, panic threading through the group. Sophie's gaze darted toward the sound, but the stranger, Daniel's alleged brother, didn't flinch. He stood there, a malevolent grin plastered across his face. "Oh, it's about to get a lot worse." The door flew open, and a gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering torch in an instant. Shadows swallowed the light, plunging them into darkness. Eleanor's heart thudded in her chest as she struggled to regain her bearings. She reached for James, her anchor in the chaos. "Stay close," he urged, his voice steady despite the pandemonium swirling around them. And then it happened. A flash of movement, a blur darting across the room. A figure lunged into them from the depths of the shadows, bringing a cacophony of chaos. It was a child, no more than 8 years old, with wild hair and a tear-streaked face, eyes wide with fear. "Help! It's coming!" The child's voice, although small, rang like a bell tolling. "A warning." "What?" James gasped, bewildered as he crouched beside the child, his protective instinct igniting. The room froze around them, eyes darting, murmurs growing louder. "Get back!" the stranger shouted, desperation leaking into his voice, his demeanor faltering as if he sensed a shift in the air. But the gravity of the moment was unfurling, and Eleanor felt it weighing down on her like stone. "Who is this?" Daniel shouted, struggling to his feet, blood still seeping from his shoulder. "Why is there a child here?" But the child didn't have time to answer. She turned, wide-eyed, pointing back into the shadows. "He's here. He's bringing it all back. You don't understand." Eleanor's world tilted, questions racing through her mind. "What do you mean? Who's here?" Then a chill ran through the room as a voice, haunting and familiar, called out from the shadows. "You won't escape this time, Eleanor." The words sliced through the air like ice, revealing secrets long buried. Light flickered back into existence, illuminating not just the child, but a figure lurking behind. An older man with sharp features, eyes as cold as the storm raging outside. "You thought I was gone, didn't you?" he said, stepping into the light, and the world crumbled around them. "Dad," Eleanor choked. The truth crashed over her in waves. No one had seen him for years. They thought he had vanished, swallowed by darkness. "How are you?" But before she could finish, her father's gaze hardened. "It's time for the family to reunite, my love. This form is just beginning, and you're at the center of it all." Eleanor's heart raced wildly as the chaos spiraled. Everything she thought she knew about her family, about the people in the room, began to shatter and twist. Relationships transformed into fragile threads, breaking painfully with each revelation. "No." Her voice trembled as she pieced the truth together. "No, you can't be here. You've been gone. But I've always been close," he said, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "I knew everything. I created this storm in your life." The silence that followed was deafening. The walls whispered secrets. Every breath felt heavy, suffocating with dread. Eleanor's mind screamed. What had he done? Was this all his creation? She felt a tide of betrayal wash over her, blocking out all reason. Relationships splintered, alliances crumbled. "Eleanor," James breathed, stepping closer, confusion written on his face. "What's happening?" But she could barely respond. Her father's presence loomed large, a shadow over everything she thought she understood. "You can't run from me, my daughter." And just then, the storm outside erupted again, rain lashing against the windows like angry fists. Something dark was unfolding, and they were all caught in its eye. Questions swirled in her mind, but one burned brighter than all the rest. What other secrets were hidden beneath the surface of Holloway Manor, waiting to be unleashed? Eleanor felt the weight of the moment, a storm brewing above them, swirling with unanswered questions. The tension in the room stretched, like an elastic band, ready to snap. Eleanor, it's not just about you. Daniel's voice cracked, each word weighed down with desperation. Panic surged in her chest. What did he mean? What secret intertwined their lives? She caught Jane's worried gaze among the bewildered faces, their eyes reflecting the chaos of the moment. Daniel, what do you know? She demanded, heart racing. Everything, Eleanor, he said, each syllable a hammer blow. It's all connected. I came here to warn you. You need to decide, he urged, his voice rising amid the storm. We're running out of time. As thunder roared, the stranger stepped closer, shadows wrapping around him. His smirk widened, knowing how this would end. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for. The storm, crashing down in the form of fate. Then it hit. A deafening crash rolled through the air as the back wall exploded inward. A figure emerged through the debris, wild and electric, flames flickering in their wake. Stop, Eleanor screamed, but the words were lost in the chaos. Who are you? James shouted, his protectiveness cracking against the unknown. Someone you thought you could bury, the woman spat, pointing at Daniel. He's your brother, James. Eleanor's heart stopped. Brother. What? She staggered back, shock coursing through her veins. Daniel had a brother? Silence crashed like thunder, echoing through the room. James's face twisted in disbelief, anger hardening his features. That can't be true. Can't you see? The woman exclaimed, stepping into the dim light. You thought you could forget him. You thought you could erase your past. Eleanor clenched the paper in her pocket. What the hell was happening? Daniel, is this true? Daniel's eyes darted to the woman, raw vulnerability cracking through his facade. Sophie, you should have stayed away. James was frozen in his fury, eyes darting between them. You knew and you didn't tell me? Before Daniel could respond, Sophie lunged forward, and time froze. Movement blurred as they collided, a shockwave echoing through the room, rattling pictures on the walls. Screams sliced through the air as Eleanor pulled away, panic gripping her heart. Everything shifted, shadows swirled, the storm outside, now a faint whisper against the turmoil within. Then, out of nowhere, the loud shattering of glass erupted. Eleanor jerked backward. As a huge window cracked apart, sprawling shards raining through the room like deadly stars. Daniel, James yelled, his voice slicing through the panic. Watch out! Eleanor shouted, lunging forward, but too late. Daniel pushed Sophie aside, but a jagged shard caught his arm. He cried out, blood blooming against his shirt, shock flashing across his face. Why are you... He looked between James and Sophie, confusion darkening his features. The chaos enveloped them. Eleanor's heart raced as she struggled to grasp what was happening. She reached for Daniel, but he staggered back, collapsing to a knee. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared at the far end of the room. Eleanor squinted. A figure emerged, holding a flickering torch, illuminating faces twisted in shock. Eleanor, the newcomer called, voice clear and commanding. Her heart dropped. Not again. Mom? It was her mother, wild-eyed and breathless. Stay back. It's not safe. Eleanor's mind raced. But how? No time, her mother shouted, flicking the light around. They're coming for all of us. A gasp escaped the crowd. Questions spiraled through the air, like leaves caught in a gust of wind. But before anyone could speak, Sophie's eyes widened in horror as she darted to the door. There's no escape, she screamed, panic lacing her voice. Just then something shifted. The tension in the air thickened, and the ground beneath them rumbled. Something dark and heavy loomed outside, as if the storm had come alive. Eleanor felt a pulse, a surge of energy that warped the air. Memory flickered. Her mother's warnings long ago about a darkness shadowing their family. Could this be it? Eleanor, Daniel groaned, pressing a hand to his shoulder. You need to understand, it's worse than we thought. She turned, eyes wide, but he was interrupted by the wall shaking with violent force. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and blazed. And then a twisted silhouette materialized in the doorway. A face she recognized from her childhood nightmares. Did you really think you could run? The figure hissed, body tight and menacing. But truth hit Eleanor like a brick. You were supposed to be gone. Her voice cracked. The walls echoed with disbelief. Secrets intertwining like vines. Truths twisting into darkness as the storm raged louder outside. She couldn't breathe. The game was changing, and they were all pieces caught in a much larger web. But in that moment, flashes of memories collided within her. The face of her father, the pain of betrayal, the bonds that tangled their fates, and then, the familiar tilt of the head, the same eyes. "What did you say?" Eleanor breathed, voice trembling. "You've always been close?" He stepped forward, and the shadow deepened, revealing something terrifying. A shard of glass embedded in his palm. He held it out, and she could see the markings, names, all connected to her. "You think this storm is about them?" he growled, his tone low and dangerous. "It's about you, Eleanor. You're the climax of this chaos. You've always been." Her world shattered. "What are you talking about? No, I can't be." "Oh, bet you are," he grinned. "You're the one who holds the key. The family's secret is in your blood." Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her. "What do you mean?" The question trembled on her lips, a whisper of hope and dread. "What was taken from you will bring everything to light," he stated, voice like thunder. "Embrace it before it consumes you." Tension wrapped around her throat, and just then, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. The door blasted open, and shadowy figures poured in, snarling and howling like wolves unleashed. They were coming for her. "Run!" Eleanor shouted, but her feet felt glued to the floor, caught in the maelstrom of revelation. As she stood, frozen, the storm surged, and Eleanor realized she was at the center of a greater game with players she never knew existed. Would she fight, or would she uncover the truth buried deep within her? That question loomed like the storm, heavy with promise and peril. Could she step into the darkness, or would it consume her whole? Eleanor felt the intensity crackle around her, as if the very air were charged with energy. Her father stood there, shadows pooling around him, twisting into familiar shapes. The room trembled with each heartbeat, the pounding rain outside matching the chaos within. "Why are you here?" she whispered. The fear clung to her words, a mere thread away from cracking. "Eleanor," he began, his voice raspy and dark. "You need to understand, they're all here because of you." "Because of me?" James's voice cut through the tension. "What do you mean? What does any of this have to do with her?" But Eleanor couldn't tear her gaze from her father, as if he were a magnet, and she was helpless to look away. The shadows behind him writhed, and for a split second, she could see faces, twisted, anguished faces, staring back at her. Sophie stepped cautiously toward the shadows, eyes narrowing. "What do you want with her? You still don't get it, do you?" Their father's grin widened. "You think this is just about family? About wealth? No. This goes back generations. Eleanor holds the power to end it all." The tension snapped like a tight string. "And what?" Eleanor shouted, heart racing, pulse throbbing in her ears. Then came a chilling laugh from the darkness. It sent shivers down her spine. A voice emerged, smooth and sinister. "Oh, darling, it's not just about you. It never was." Eleanor's stomach dropped. "Who are you?" she called out, desperate. From behind her father emerged a woman, dark hair flowing, eyes shimmering with an almost supernatural gleam. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. "An old friend," the woman said, her voice sultry, curling around the words like smoke. The air froze. Confusion swept through the room like a cold draft. James looked at Eleanor, then back at the woman. "You can't be serious. What does she have to do with this?" "I'm the one who made sure the storm never quite blew over," the woman replied, stepping further into the light, revealing the smirk on her lips. "I've fed on the chaos, the power struggles. It's been amusing." Eleanor felt her blood run cold. "No, this isn't possible." Her head spun, every moment of the past weeks flashing before her eyes. The secrets, the turmoil, each one tied to this woman. "Oh, but it is," the woman purred. "And now, Eleanor, it's time for you to choose. Will you embrace your legacy, or will you continue to stumble in the dark? Because your family isn't just a family anymore. It's a lineage wrapped in curses and blood." "How dare you?" James spat, stepping closer to protect Eleanor, his fists clenched. "You think you can come here and say all this and before he could finish, there was a loud crash from the kitchen. The shadows shifted again, a dark figure breaking through the doorway, a storm of energy swirling around him. "Stop!" he shouted, voice booming with authority. Every face turned, fear rippling through the crowd. "Why are you here?" the woman snarled, eyes narrowing like a predator sizing up its prey. But the man didn't flinch, because the past is about to catch up with you, Marissa. And I'm not letting it take Eleanor. Eleanor's heart dropped, the recognition blooming in her chest. "Marissa," she whispered, gazing at the woman in horror. The name hung in the air like poison. James's grip tightened on her shoulder, but she felt a strange connection to this Marissa, an undeniable pull from somewhere deep inside. "You've been playing us all along?" she demanded, anger mixing with fear. Marissa's lips curled into a grin. "Oh, sweet Eleanor, it's much more complicated than that. You have no idea how deep the roots of this family run. And now you get to decide who you truly want to be. Choose wisely." Suddenly, everything shifted. The room darkened, shadows crawling as an energy, dark yet fascinating, pulsed around Eleanor. She felt both terrified and oddly empowered. The stranger grinned, eyes glinting with something fierce. "The storm is yours to command." Then, just like that, Eleanor's reality shifted again. The walls shook. Voices merged into a cacophony of chaos, and Eleanor felt herself slipping. "What's happening?" she gasped, every breath battling against the rising tide of uncertainty. But as she looked around, the faces blurred, and she realized the truth was more devastating than she dared to imagine. The storm outside may have been the least of her worries. What was her legacy? What would it cost to confront it? The questions hung in the air, echoing their alarming truth. Was she ready to uncover the deep darkness lurking within her blood? As the tempest roared, Eleanor faced the encroaching shadows, chills running down her spine. Would she embrace her place within this storm, or flee from it? The room crackled with tension, shadows swirling around Eleanor as she faced the darkness and the shadows of her past. Her breath came in quick bursts. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. "I have the power," she whispered, the gravity of her father's words settling heavily on her shoulders. James stood beside her, protective and fierce, eyes scanning the chaos for any sign of danger. "Eleanor, whatever is happening, we'll figure it out together." His voice was steady, a lifeline amid the storm. But Marissa's voice cut through, smooth and mocking. "Figure it out? You're in over your heads." She stepped closer, confidence radiating from her as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Eleanor, you are the key. Choose to join me. Embrace your legacy, and we can harness this power together." "No," Daniel shouted, staggering to his feet, despite the injury on his shoulder. "Don't listen to her. This isn't a game." "Not a game?" Marissa laughed, her eyes sparkling with a twisted enthusiasm. "This is a legacy. Your legacy, Eleanor, waiting for you to take the reins. Why let others dictate your life when you can command your own destiny?" Eleanor's mind raced, caught between anger and desperation. She felt the shadows close in, memories of pain and longing flickering before her, like a forgotten film. "No more secrets," she declared, her voice rising against the storm that raged outside, thunder rumbling as if echoing her resolve. "I refuse to hide from this any longer." The thunder rolled louder, almost responding to her plea, but Marissa remained unmoved. "Then stand with me or face the storm alone. You've seen what your family has done. You can wield that power or be crushed by it." "I won't stand with you," Eleanor shouted, heart hammering as she felt the mounting strength within her. I don't care about power. I care about truth and freedom. The air shimmered and darkness swelled around them. Daniel rallied beside her, driving the energy around Eleanor, amplifying her courage. We stand together. You're not alone. The room shook, and Eleanor felt a surge, something within her bursting to life. She lifted her arms, the storm swirling not just around her but through her, channeling all the pain and joy, every hidden memory, and every story tucked away by her family. No more lies, the words released like a shockwave. The swirling shadows hissed, twisting and crackling at the revelation. Eleanor. James's voice was fierce, eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. You're doing it. Don't stop. With one powerful gesture, she pushed the darkness back, casting it into the corners where it dissolved, losing its potency against her light. The shadows faded, retreating like frightened whispers. Marissa's face fell, and the confidence crumbled, replaced by fury. You foolish girl, you don't know what you've unleashed. But Eleanor stood her ground, a beacon of light piercing through the chaos. I can wield this power, not you. I will break this cycle of darkness. With one last surge, she watched as the fears, the pain of forgotten memories, shifted into the light, revealing her family's truths, exposing the shadowy history that clung like cobwebs. The storm died down, clarity emerged. Outside, the rain eased, sunlight breaking through the clouds, casting its warm glow into the chaos of Holloway Manor. Eleanor turned to her family, her heart pounding fiercely. We can heal. We can embrace who we are without losing ourselves. Together. Tears stung her eyes, not of fear, but of hope. The past wasn't gone. They could work through it if they chose to. James stepped forward, determination alight in his eyes. Together, then. Daniel nodded, squeezing Eleanor's arm. No more secrets. Eleanor, her mother called, and she turned, her heart swelling. Finding her voice, she took a step toward her. We can mend this, right? Yes, her mother replied, stepping into a light illuminating through the windows. Together, we fight, together we heal. And as they faced the new dawn, all tied by blood and fate, Eleanor felt vibrant power ignite anew. Let's start, she said, the shadows receding behind them. With a mix of joyous hope and fierce determination, they stepped into the light, together as one. Before you go, this is your moment. You have to subscribe right now to never miss the next thrilling story. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help more people find this amazing journey. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support means everything.